The Institute of Economic Affairs, IEA, says it is exploring the possibility of holding a separate presidential debate for candidates of the two major political parties as part of this year's pre-election debate series. The debate for frontrunners, according to the senior research fellow at the Institute, Dr. Michael Ofori-Mensah, is to provide the candidates a platform to present their vision to the nation and also give discerning electorates an opportunity to listen and choose wisely on the day of elections. Dr. Michael Ofori-Mensah spoke to Joy News after the launch of the debate series.
The IEA has organized presidential debates ahead of every election in this country since 2000. So the debate series this year would be the 5th consecutive time that we are organizing presidential election debates. But the objective of the debate series is to provide a platform for the candidates to outline their visions of governance for this country, but at the same time engage with each other on a single platform that's their co-contestants, and more or less point out the differences in their policies and programs, and as well as outline alternatives as to what they can do or they will do differently. The other important aspect of holding a presidential debate is it provides the electorate with an opportunity to hold their elected leaders accountable. And then finally, I would say that allowing candidates to engage on matters of policy as opposed to engaging in the politics of personal insults, would shift the tone of the whole campaign. And eventually, my belief is that it promotes also peace, and in the end, it helps deepen our democracy. So that's why we organize the debates. Now, in terms of the 2016 debate series, we'll be holding 2 presidential debates, 1 vice presidential debate, and then 4 evening encounters. The presidential debates more or less provide a platform for the candidates to engage, and then the criteria for participating is that the candidates will need to have, the eligible candidates will need to have representation in Parliament.
What happens to?
Just one second. This is the criteria we've used. We used this criteria, in 2004, 2008, and 2012. Now, you preempting my question. As I outlined in the speech, in my presentation, we do conduct a review when we complete the debate series every year. And I think I'm going to answer the question you're going to ask. What I did say is this, that we are exploring holding a separate debate for candidates who don't have any, for candidates from parties who don't have parliamentary representation, and indeed independent presidential candidates as well this year. So that's on the table. In addition to that, the other new initiative that's under discussion this year is that we are considering holding a debate for the 2 frontrunners in this year's election. And that's all based on that feedback that we do receive once we do we conduct surveys at the end of presidential election debates, pre-election debates each year.
So I'm going to ask my question again. Selecting parties that have representation in Parliament, and say you do away with party, someone like Dr. Papa Kwesi Ndum, don't you think we are cutting off someone who has so much experience he can bring on board if we give him the platform to also tell us exactly what he can do if given the nod to become the president of the Republic?
I thank you for your question, but I would just reiterate my answer again here, that the debates are organized based on rules and guidelines. And this is a guideline that we've used in previous years. And, we don't actually change the rules to suit individuals. But then, again, what I just said, a minute ago was that we are considering, based on the feedback we've received, and which perhaps you are trying to, again, re-emphasize that feedback and that groundswell of public interest relating to the fact that, perhaps there's an opportunity that the IEA will hold a separate debate for candidates from non-parliamentary parties.
Why not bring them together?
Again, we would not want to change the rules that we've used in the past. This is the way it's been done. And in fact, there's a very, very wide range of opinions out there. There's a strong body of, evidence that's pointing to the fact that people would even want the debates to be held, one debate, strong held for candidates who's, the two front runners in the two front runners.
I mean, the NDC and the MPP.
Well, you said that, yes.
Okay, you also mentioned that you're going to organize one for running mates. These individuals are not going to be on the ballot box, on the ballot paper when we go into elections. So why do we need a separate debate for them?
That's very interesting and a very important question. As you know, the IEA introduced vice presidential debates in the year 2008. And I think the vice president occupies a role that is very important. As our constitution mandates, the vice president takes over when the president is not available. Yeah. And of course, we've had a real life experience of this. So it's very important and it's critical that all vice presidential aspirants also have the same qualities as the president. And that's why it's very, very important to also test the vice presidential aspirants and see whether they would complement the president in any way at all, and whether they will be up to the task if they were to, assume the role of president, and to debate issues of policy. I think it's quite critical, for all of us. In fact, if you notice, we've even held debates in the past for even members of parliament in some constituencies. So I think debates are a very, very important thing. It sends a message that politics is about the contest of ideas. It's not a call to arms. And if we can actually debate these things in a very civil manner, I think, it would deepen our democracy. And so I'd say the vice presidential debates are also very important.
So you've had this debate over the years.
Absolutely.
Would you say it has helped to deepen our democracy in any way, or governance?
I will surely say it has strengthened our democracy. In fact, what you have here with you today is that you have the set of all the evening encounters. That's the individual platform that each of those each candidate, mounted last year and outlined their vision of governance. You also have the transcript, a full transcript of the presidential and vice presidential debates. So you can take this, interrogate the issues, and then hold the candidates to account for the promises that they made on the campaign platforms. What you might realize also is that there might be shifts in some of the policies that the candidates made. What explains those shifts? You have to also be able to look at the issues and even cost some of the policies to see whether they are even feasible or not. This is essential. This is about accountability, and that is what would help deepen our democracy. The success of these debates, rests with all of us. It's going to be a collective effort. And what we would say is that we count on you, the media, as long-term partners in this exercise, because it's about you also educating the citizens on issues that are pertinent to this election. It's also about analyzing the different policy positions. It's about also, trying to generate interest in the debates. This is what would help us all hold the candidates to account. So I hope we can work constructively together.
Right then, so we'll see what the political parties will have to say about the proposal about having the two main parties having a separate presidential debate. Now, the West African Network for Peace Building, WANEP, has warned political parties against the recruitment of young people to engage in violence in the upcoming general election. Speaking at a ceremony to establish the Women's Situation Room in Ghana, Programs Director of WANEP, Levima Adaimensa, said the move by some political parties is a threat and a challenge to them, since this youth can easily engage in violent acts as Ghana prepares for the November 7 polls.
We realize that as we get closer and closer to elections, or with elections, come additional risks, because even risks that have already been identified that are not related to elections become even bigger issues during elections, or during elections there are triggers that easily bring these threats to life. So my experiences have been that from moving from the lack of political spaces for participation by various groups through to disenfranchising of youth groups, those are some of the high threats that we see. So as a result of the limited space for engagement of youth and the lack of empowerment of youth, we see that that becomes one of the big factors in elections, because it informs or it helps to exacerbate potential violent situations. So for instance, in Ghana, we've already seen youth being recruited to engage in election-related, armed activities of violence in terms of providing security for some political parties or some actors. These are not conventional security actors, and therefore there's always the challenge of what extent can they go, to what extent can they engage in violence, because it becomes a threat.
Well, the ladies and women who appeared at the program by WANEP also shared their thoughts with us about this challenge of young men engaging in violent acts during the elections.
This initiative, this process, is one that is very timely, very useful, and it is a process that should be very widely embraced. Why do I say so? When you look at conflict, and the people most impacted by conflict, and the people who usually have the least to do with conflict, it is women. And therefore, the establishment of a Women's Situation Room, from what we have heard in the first session, will be a very effective and efficient way, supplementing all the other initiatives already on the ground, to bring women not only to being reactive, but that even before conflict occurs, they are already aware of the dynamics, the systems, and the processes in which to engage. So now we are not firefighting, but hopefully we'll be fire preventing as well.
Right then, so that's for the issue of violence, young people, and the views of WANEP on what we should be doing ahead of this election in 2016. At this point, we'll go for a break. We'll come back, and sports with Gary L. Smith is up next. Stay with us.